WPL, let me start with that. I think you're starting to see some of the benefits of the WPL. This is still, it's still a very young tournament. Handful of years being around, it's still very young, but you're starting to see some spin-offs of that where young women in India are starting to see more and more cricket as a career option, not just internationally, but on the domestic front. And I think that stretches to across the world as well. A lot of players across the world want to play in the WPL in addition to WBBL, in addition to playing professionally in England, for example. We get a number of players now coming out to the WCPL in the Caribbean. So WPL, given the vastness of the nation, is a great thing. But you're still going to have to wait a little bit longer to see the full impact of that. And if I may just draw, and now may not be a good time for it, given that India lost a couple of games to Ireland in the last couple of T20s, but those are blips. I believe those are blips, right? What we've seen with the IPL is that initially in the IPL, a number of finishers with the bat, a number of excellent all-rounders were drafted in from across the cricketing globe to franchises to take up key positions to try to win games. Now we're starting to see a little bit of an evolution in that, where India are starting to produce their own all-rounders who are finishing games with the bat and who can bowl a bit of seam, and that still needs growth. So I think in the WCPL, you still have to position teams in a way where you want the overseas players coming in, but also ensure that as T20 internationals demand, a number of your key positions still have to be influenced by Indian selections. Because when you go on to the world stage, you don't have that foreign assistance. It's your national team. So you want your fast bowling group to be developed in the WCPL more and more. You want your wrist spin bowling to be found. I still think India will need a couple of wrist spinners, something that Australia have going for them very well. And your power hitting dynamics still need to grow. So that will come in time, but we are already seeing the benefits of WCPL. Adapting to conditions is always critical. For example, in this World Cup, as with most tournaments, you find teams playing at different venues, and a lot of teams have had to play, for example, down in Southampton, then go all the way up to Leeds, back down to Manchester, for example, down to Lords. So adapting to those varying conditions without much practice time, sometimes a team would have gotten to a new venue a day or two before. It's not new in the international game, and it's not an excuse, but it is critical to adapt. But you have some form teams, and we can get into that a little bit later. Obviously, Australia and England are the two form teams in the tournament. From India's point of view, I wouldn't say that call myself the most sort of knowledgeable scribe on it, but I just felt from a bowling perspective, there needs to be, they were unfortunate with injuries, Sriyanka Patel going out, and they need some pace additions, I believe. Not just being a former fast bowler, but I think generally, and I asked Charlie Dean about this, I've been talking about the Australians and how they have managed to win 6 T20 World Cups. A little bit more balance in the bowling attack with a little bit more pace, cutting edge in addition to the spinners is one thing. And in T20 cricket now, where Australia have been very good in winning 6 titles, is the power in their batting. And India do have a little bit of that, but they need more. And looking back to the game yesterday, I wonder if Richa Ghosh could have come in a little bit earlier, where Jamima was struggling to get the ball away. So those are little points they look back on. Obviously, given the number of titles Australia have had, it's self-evident that they have been far ahead of many others in the world game. They've lost in finals. West Indies, former champions in 2016. England have had New Zealand won the last T20 World Cup. But if you talk about consistency over time, Australia obviously have been ahead more consistently. How can they stop them? The West Indies are going to have to lift their game significantly, and it's capable for Hayley Matthews, who hasn't really fired yet, for Deandra Dutton, who hasn't really fired yet. We've seen some good things from Stephanie Taylor, so hopefully she's fit, healthy, and firing and ready to go. Shemaine Campbell had a good outing. So those big players, I think one or two or some of them are going to have to stand tall, simply because Australia have decent enough bowling resources, very experienced in the spin department, and their batting depth and power is amongst the best in the game, certainly in the top two. So whatever happens at the toss, the West Indies are going to have to bat as a lot better than they've batted before in this tournament. The batting has been shaky. They have to hope their bowling group is on target. Chanel Henry is a vital piece of the puzzle, and she had injuries in the last game. So hopefully she is fit. And that to me is another big thing. West Indies have to be fit, and they have to bowl to the best of their ability, because that Australian machine is very, very good all round. So I'm not saying it can't be done. For it to be done, West Indies have to be on top of their game. Bat well with the big three or four they have, and hope that Chanel, amongst the other bowlers, is fit. South Africa have been plugging away in every format and genre of the game, men's and women's, over the last few years. And the women's team in particular have been knocking at the door. Their win yesterday was a little bit shaky in that run chase, but I think they have enough soldiers in their leader, in Marizanne Cap, and a number of other players, Tasmin Brits, etc., who can win a game on the day. So I would never write them off at all. I hope that one day they push all the way to lifting one of these trophies in the female game. However, England's record of never having lost a Women's World Cup of any kind at home is a strong one. And if Nat Sciver-Brunt is running and available and running at 100%, then I think they are one of the favorites. I wouldn't say they are with Australia battling there in that form, I wouldn't say they are runaway favorites. They're going to be tough to beat, but Australia are also a strong team, and on their day, South Africa can surprise you. Was a better total. I think that you had to aim for that sort of total, and that's where I suppose the discussions will be around Jemima's knock. She had to retire out, and Risha Ghosh came in, didn't have the chance apart from a ball or two to flex her muscle. But that's the sort of power that you wanted to utilize a little bit more of in hindsight. So I think that total would have been about par if I just go back to the result of it. You want to be above those given the power of Australia's batting. And the other point about it, so I would agree with you, India needed to be above that 170, right? The other part of it is, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know, I can't speak too much about the decision from one to the next, but what I will say is that even for the injuries that India have had with their bowling pre-tournament and with Sriyanka Patil being injured in tournament, India still need to find a couple of seamers before the next T20 World Cup and through the phase until then. A couple of, I think, potent seamers. There has to be a deliberate hunt to get that effective seamers to go with their spinners.